Well, I suppose we could start. I mean, there we have a chazaka, three people, and Lazar's probably there somewhere. Okay, so yeah, so come on, since it's just us, Tina and Devorah, come on, it's just us. You can take your camera off when one of those boys come on. Oh, I'm having a much better time. Look at that human touch. You can see the difference. It's unbelievable. Oh, this is being recorded. Uh-oh. Okay. So we're just going to review that last page 77. Page 77. Starting now, Lazar just put starting now. Okay. Another person. Uh-oh. Okay. So 77 lists these 6 constant mitzvahs and prayer. I think we've really got the 6 constant mitzvahs in their 6 parts of the cube, but we're going to do it one more time in case anyone was feeling a little weak with one of them. I want everyone to be really secure. Okay, above is belief in the existence of God. That's interesting. That's emunah, belief in the existence of God. Okay, and that's anochi, that's above us. And then below is not believing in the existence of other gods. Lo yelecha. In front is belief in the unity of God. And we're going to learn about bringing this stuff down too. Like there's believing in it, and then there's having it affect our emotions and having it affect our behavior. Okay, then meditation on subjects that lead to love of God on the right. On the left is meditations on subjects that lead to fear of God. And what I really got from doing this here in our book is that fear of God is fear of separation from God. I think that's really an important point. We spoke about when we first started fear, that fear of sin is not, fear of punishment. Fear of punishment is not actually fear of Hashem. One doesn't get credit for Yiras Shamayim with fear of punishment because it's totally self-absorbed. Fear of sin is already a much higher level because it's fear of separation from God. And then there's awe of being in Hashem's presence. That's the kind we really want. Okay. And then shielding the mind from these negative thoughts, lo sasaru, because these are the thoughts that separate us from Hashem, and we don't want to be separated. So that's why we have to stop, because we know it. We've all experienced following thoughts that make us feel separate from Hashem, like when Hashem is not in the picture. So those are the lo sasarus. We don't want to be, the fear is to fear of being separate from Hashem. Okay. So the order in which we have presented, this is page 77 again, the order in which we have presented the 6 constant mitzvahs and prayer follows their logical order in terms of cause-effect relation. Let's look at that. First, we first become aware that Hashem exists. It's an interesting point, becoming aware that Hashem exists. This leads us to deny all pseudo-divinities. Yes, if we've had that experience, it's a real experience. Once that is achieved, we see God in everything and as everything, the unity of God. It's really a lifetime project. And when we see the unity of God, this leads us to love God. So that's a good deal. Just work on the unity of God and you get as a perk, love of God. Our love brings us to fear of separation from him. There are those words, fear separation from him. This fear, in turn, inspires us to defend ourselves from distracting or confusing influences. Those are the thoughts that drive us crazy or make us forget Hashem. And then last, encompassed in the divine space, created by the 6 constant mitzvahs, we stand before Hashem in humility and pour out our hearts to him in prayer. So this is the davening. So we're in this cube that we've created with our meditation. So we set up the cube before we daven, and then we place ourselves in this cube and stand before Hashem in humility and pour out our hearts to him. And it's interesting because I was reading recently in Hasidus about Hashem's humility and relating to us. So I thought that's very interesting that we stand before Hashem is humble, we're humble, everyone's very humble, and then we can connect with Hashem. It sounds like a good deal. Okay, we are turning the page. So we're turning the page to chapter 10, page 81, ever expanding consciousness. Ever expanding consciousness is different. Like it's the opposite of this. We've heard of mochin to godless, like expanded consciousness, and mochin to katness, contracted consciousness, small-mindedness. So we definitely don't, we want to overcome small-mindedness, not for our kind of people, small-mindedness. We want ever expanding consciousness. So there's an idea of expanding one's consciousness, and this is ever expanding. Let's find out about that. To meditate is to build. The word for meditation in Hebrew, hisbonenut, is related to the word build, boneh. Okay, so let's find out what we are building. So this is new material now. We begin the spiritual service of meditation. So even that's an interesting idea, the spiritual service of meditation. Meditation is a spiritual service. Now that's cool. By identifying a set of related concepts and structuring them in our mind based on one of the fundamental frames of reference of Kabbalah. So what did that sentence just say? It said that you can take a frame of reference, like Rav Yitzchak often takes the Spheros chart, Chachma Bina Das, and then we have Chesed Gevurah Tiferes, Netzach Hod Yesod and Malchus, and Rav Yitzchak will use that to give over a whole other string of information. He can connect it even to like the 7 things we can learn from a thief he has on a chart like that. I mean, everything can be put, all kinds of learning can be put. And now we're not talking about, for our structure now, we're not talking about the spheros, Chabad, Chagas, Nehi. We're talking about this structure of this cube. This cube is the structure, and we're going to build and understand it. And just, you're going to find out. Okay. The structure enables us to contemplate and understand in depth each of the concepts, their interdependencies and interrelationships, because we have this cube, all the parts are related. Once the concepts are well understood, the classic method of meditation is for us to reflect on the structure, now with the intent of animating its components with a living soul before formal prayer, before davening. In other words, before actually davening, we want to enliven this cube. It's like it has a soul of its own. Footnote 1, I have that, which is very short. I'll just read it. By the way, the footnotes are on page 255. It says, this, of course, does not exclude meditating any time of day that one has the proper peace of mind. I thought that was an interesting sentence. To meditate, one does need peace of mind, because if we're totally distracted and anxious, it's really hard to meditate. And I found that I found in the beginning of my studies of meditation 50 something years ago, that people that had happier childhoods did seem to have an easier time, because it's distracting. In other words, anything that distracts us interrupts our meditation. So we have to learn how to deal with these distractions. In other words, it can be dangerous ground. Someone can just start saying, now I'm going to meditate, and then start just reliving traumatic experiences. That's very different from meditation. But obviously, lo sasaru comes it's the step before. We can't meditate till we're able to somewhat relax our minds, even if it's just for 30 seconds, even if it's to clear our minds for 30 seconds. So this is the idea. So then during davening, we use the well-structured concepts as a method of enhancing our ever unfolding and developing face-to-face relationship with Hashem. Okay, so that's another interesting sentence. So what is davening? What is meditation? It's a method of enhancing our ever unfolding and developing face-to-face relationships with God. So we want that. We want that face-to-face relationship ever developing, never bored, because our relationship with Hashem is ever developing. In davening, we elevate and offer to Hashem the body and soul of our meditation. Now, that's an interesting idea. I never would have thought of doing that. We offer to Hashem what we've been able to put together in our meditation, and Hashem, in return, inspires us with the insight and power to bring our meditation into our personal life. So this is what we're talking about. To bring our meditation into our personal life means to take Chabad and bring it down into Chagas, into our emotions. So it's affecting our emotions. We're feeling love and awe of Hashem. And then into our behavior. It makes a big difference in our behavior if we're feeling inspired. If we're feeling inspired, we relate very differently to people than if we're feeling depressed, right? It's not so. We want our meditation to affect our personal life, which means affect our emotions and change our behavior. That is very exciting. It's possible to meditate enough to be inspired to change our behavior. Hashem should bless us to change our behavior. Continuing on page 82, a building consists of more than a skeletal frame. In meditation, we must continually add more stones, bricks, mortar, etc., in order to strengthen and decorate the basic structure. So this is it. We're going to really learn more things about these 6 sides of the cube. We're going to make it more interesting because we're getting, we got that part already where those mitzvahs are. We want more. Okay, each layer adds in its own way to the overall potential of the meditation and to its astounding beauty. This, of course, implies a heightened appreciation for the beauty of the Torah itself. So that's good to have a heightened appreciation for the beauty of Torah. That probably makes doing chitas more fun. Torah itself, the divine blueprint of creation and all its splendor. Imagine. You have to think of Torah as the divine blueprint of, I think I'm going to just do a little divine blueprint of creation, a little Lech Lecha. Yes, Abraham taking off like that. Yes, that's the divine blueprint of creation. All of this serves to increase the power of the meditation to affect the soul, the mind, and life in general. So the soul, the mind, life in general. All of these things can be affected by meditation. So we're really doing a great public service by meditating. And meditating can be just really 20 seconds of visualizing this cube before we begin to dab. And we can start with short amounts of time. Okay. Now on page 82, it says the Yerushalayim of the future. Of the Yerushalayim of the future, it is written, and here we have a famous quote from Zechariah. The first 3 words are actually a common Lubavitch Nigun. Prozes, Teshev, Yerushalayim. Prozes, Teshev. Okay, I want person to song. But it's so that Yerushalayim will be settled as a city without walls. And then Zechariah continues, Vani eye lo na'um Hashem chomos eish soviv ulekavod eye besocho. And I, declares Hashem, will be a wall of fire around it, and I will be a glory inside of it. So Hashem is saying he's going to be a wall of fire. Yerushalayim isn't going to have walls, but Hashem is going to be a wall of fire around it and a glory in it. Now, what's this all mean? First, it appears that Yerushalayim will be a city without walls. What does that mean? No walls will be able to contain it. Neither will it need walls for protection. So those are really 2 opposite things. It's just too big and growing that no walls can contain it. And it won't need walls for protection. We're not going to be worried about enemies coming to destroy Yerushalayim. However, then Hashem declares that he himself will be Yerushalayim's wall of fire. The teaching is clear. Physical walls will not be necessary, because Yerushalayim will become divine space with Hashem around it and Hashem within it. So physical walls, well, it's really hard to imagine. Physical walls will not be necessary because all of Yerushalayim is a divine space with Hashem in it and around it. That's what we need. That's what we want. The divine wall of fire is neither static nor stationary. Eternally alive, it continuously expands. It's a living fire. As the Medrash tells us, Yerushalayim will in the future expand to cover all the land of Israel, and the land of Israel will expand to cover the whole world. I'm sure we've all heard that. It's a Medrash from Pesikta Rabotai. that Yerushalayim will cover all of Eretz Yisrael, and Eretz Yisrael will expand to cover the whole world. I'm just getting a drink. I'll be right back. L'chaim, l'chaim. The nature of divine space is to at once define the boundaries of our consciousness while simultaneously causing our consciousness to expand until it contains the entire cosmos. So what is this saying? Our consciousness to expand till it contains the entire cosmos. So this is like Hashem's consciousness. We're identifying with Hashem's consciousness. The sages referred to this phenomenon as a boundless inheritance from Gemara Brachos, based on Hashem's promise to Yaakov, you shall break forth to the west, to the east, to the north, and to the south. Ufaratzta. Remember that Ufaratzta? So I think this is making Ufaratzta more interesting because it's saying, it's talking about our expanding consciousness. Like we always thought it was like the people moving. That's exciting also. But now it's talking about our consciousness expanding in all of these directions. And we want to have expanded consciousness. There's a lot of advantages. People with expanded consciousness don't have temper tantrums. That sounds good, etc. You can fill in all the other blanks of the advantages of expand. It could be a good, little essay question. What are the advantages of expanded consciousness? Okay, now we're on page 83, 6 ascending levels of holiness. The sages speak of 10 ascending levels of holiness that Hashem created in the world. So there are ascending levels of holiness. These levels begin with the holiness of the land of Israel and ascend to the holiness of the innermost chamber of the Beis HaMikdash, the Holy of Holies, the Kodesh Kadoshim. Of the 10, 6 stand out in particular. Okay, so as I'm going to read these 6 levels, we want to visualize ourselves increasing in consciousness. Yes, there's a gematria. Faratzta is 770. Yes, that's us. Okay, so again, let's begin. The first level of holiness is the land of Israel, Eretz Yisrael. And we have a few people here from Eretz Yisrael, I can see. The next level of holiness is the walled cities of Israel. So we know there's a few walled cities, those people that keep the second day of Purim. We know those Shushan Purim cities. And so there's the general walled cities. There's a few of them. Then the third level is the city of Yerushalayim. We're making Yerushalayim separate from all the walled cities, where it's another level of holiness. 4 is Har Habayis, the Temple Mount. 5 is the Beis HaMikdash itself. And 6 is Kodesh HaKadoshim. So these are 6 levels of holiness that we can grow into. In meditation, we may picture ourselves as ascending a ladder from level to level. Okay, we're going to see how these 6 levels correspond to the 6 sides of the cube, but there's an idea of to picture ourselves ascending from a ladder from level to level. These 6 levels themselves may be seen to correspond to the 6 constant mitzvahs of the Torah, as we shall presently explain. So we're taking our structure and we're going to be adding these 6 levels of holiness to the 6 sides of the cube. We ascend to the apex of consciousness of the divine space encompassing us, stand in a selfless state of prayer. And again, davening is the 7th mitzvah, which follows the other 6 automatically, which strives to be a constant mitzvah, prayer, davening. And then turn to experience our consciousness expanding to encompass the entire land of Israel and the entire universe. Okay, so before we begin the 6 levels, I just want to say, when I thought of where it says to stand in a selfless state of prayer. So I was thinking of, when I saw that, I was thinking of an idea that I've been thinking of in terms of mental health. That's a good subject. This idea, this particular sentence, this idea, it's not about me, it's about my shlichus. And I find that very helpful. It's not about me, it's about my shlichus. It means I can take myself out of the picture. And what needs to be done in this situation next? That's probably my shlichus. So it's an interesting idea. It's not about me, it's about my shlichus. Because that's a selfless state of prayer. I guess it's also not about me, it's about davening. Okay, so now we're going to look at these 6 levels. The Jewish people were commanded upon entering the land of Israel to first purify the land from all idolatry. Okay, so footnote 9 I have circled here. This is an important footnote here on page 255. Okay, it's quoting something from Numbers, from Bamidbar. We are taught that the atmosphere of the land of Israel makes one wise. That's Baba Basra. Even the wisest of Jews, when entering the promised land, will tend to change their mind with regard to previous assumptions and opinions. Now that's interesting. It's always good to change our mind with regard to previous assumptions and opinions. I actually saw someone doing that. We had a guest that came from Crown Heights, and she was able to change some of her assumptions and opinions that worked out very well. Baruch Hashem. Entering the atmosphere of the land of Israel is entering divine space, a space encompassing us from all sides, a space conducive to divine inspiration. So that's an interesting idea also. Probably we don't think about Eretz Yisrael encompassing us from all sides. We're just totally surrounded by Eretz Yisrael. Okay, and it's conducive to divine inspiration. The command to purify the land of Israel from all idolatry is interpreted to mean that in the Holy Land we must search for the most concealed traces of idolatry and uproot them from even subterranean locations from below. And that's an interesting idea. In Eretz Yisrael, it's not enough to have idols dug under the soil. We have to dig them up and get rid of them. We can't, the idolatry has to be completely uprooted from Eretz Yisrael. The holy atmosphere of the land of Israel is conducive to enlightening us to recognize even the subtlest nuances of mistaken thinking in order to uproot them. Oh, I like that. We want to uproot the subtlest nuances of mistaken thinking. Who wants to have subtle nuances of mistaken thinking? No, we're going to uproot them here in Eretz Yisrael. These mistaken ways of thinking are the subtlest forms of spiritual idolatry, all stemming from conscious or unconscious reliance on natural causation, the mind space of the diaspora, of the gullus. What is this saying? So natural causation is what's the opposite of hashgacha pratis. Natural causation means randomness. Things just happen due to the laws of physics. So we're not into that. We believe hashgacha pratis. We believe that every detail of the circumstances of our life, including the waving of a blade of grass, is all due to hashgacha pratis, that Hashem is making the circumstances of our life for the best of us. So this is this idea of purifying the land from all traces of idolatry and mistaken thinking when we come to the land. So that's number one, to purify the land from all idolatry, which corresponds to that second mitzvah, constant mitzvah, lo yi elecha, which is below us. So if you want to purify the land from all idolatry, Eretz Yisrael, we enter Eretz Yisrael, this first level of holiness, we purify the land from all idolatry, including our minds. Then the second is the walled cities of Eretz Yisrael, or those settlements physically protected from foreign invasion. In the soul, they correspond to the consciousness of the sixth constant mitzvah, to shield or protect one's mind from foreign negative thoughts, the direction of the back. So walled cities, Eretz Yisrael is the first level of holiness. Walled cities is the second. So they have walls. So it's connected with Lo Sasaru. We want to have a wall that we don't have to have thoughts that we don't want to have, that we should be able to choose our thoughts. It seems reasonable. It's like our mind. We don't want someone else running thoughts. We don't want someone else hiring out our mind and running their thoughts through it. No, we want to have our own, we want to choose our thoughts. Okay, so, and that's the back, Lo Sasaru. 3, in Kabbalah and Hasidic thought, the name Yerushalayim is read as complete awe, Shlemus Hayira. Malki Tzedek, who lived in the time of Avraham, had called the city Shalem, meaning complete, but Avraham called it awe, Yira. The name Yerushalayim is a composite of the two, with awe preceding complete. This clearly corresponds to the fifth of the constant mitzvahs, the mitzvah to fear God and the direction to the left. So that's Yerushalayim, because the name, awe is in the name. That's the hint that Yerushalayim goes with awe of Hashem, because it has Yira as part of its name. Fear or awe is part of the name. Okay, so look at that. We're making a lot of progress here. Now the fourth. Abraham asked Hashem for the area where the Beis Hamikdash would stand, that is the Temple Mount, and referred to the temple to be as a mountain, Har. In Kabbalah and Hasidus, mountain symbolizes great love, the divine attribute personified by Abraham. This then alludes to the fourth of the constant mitzvahs, the mitzvah to love Hashem and the direction of the right. So this is Har Habayis. This is Har Habayis. Har, we know that when Abraham was going for the Akedah, he referred to this place as Har. Har is love. And this reminds me of the story of how did Hashem forced us to accept the Torah by putting a mountain over our head. And what was that mountain? His love for us. We couldn't resist it. All that love, who could resist? God just really loves us. Okay, yes, we'll take it. We'll take the Torah, yes. That's why I say it wasn't until Purim when things were looking quite badly. And then when we took on the Torah then, it was like a real serious taking on. It wasn't just this mountain of love convincing us to do it. It was our choosing to do it. Okay, so the direction of the right is love of God, and that's Har Habayis, because Abraham, whose love referred to the temple to be as Har. Okay, then 5. Yaakov called the temple to be the house, Bayit, and this is its name forever, Beis Hamikdash, the house of sanctuary, the holy house. Interesting that Yaakov called it Bayit, and that's its name forever. Inside the Beis Hamikdash, there's that Bayit again, the Jewish soul experienced the absolute unity of God, reaching the level of consciousness associated with the soul of Yaakov/Yisro. So what is that saying? What a perk. Come to the Beis Hamikdash and you will experience the absolute unity of God. Now that sounds really good to me. I'd like to experience, we need it. We need it because then if we experience it, it's much easier for us to affect our emotions and affect our behavior. This was the Beis Hamikdash. So this was the level of Yaakov, the front, the unity of God. So this corresponds to the direction of front. And the third, there's a typographical error there. The third of the constant mitzvahs, the mitzvah to unify God as we proclaim in the Shema. Hear, O Israel, God is our God, God is one, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. And I would suggest making that, if you have a book, to cross out the word second and write third, so your book will be accurate. They should have hired me to proofread the book, but what could you do? It was already printed when I got on the ship. Okay, then 6. So the highest level of holiness is the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Hashem's in the Kodesh HaKadoshim, Hashem's very essence is revealed. Wow. And even the 4-letter name of God, which we unite with his name Elohim in proclaiming the Shema, is his very essence expressed in the above even. Let me read that sentence again. Above even the four-letter name of God. So Hashem's essence is above even the four-letter name of God, which we unite with his name Elohim in proclaiming the Shema. Is his very essence expressed in the first word of the Ten Commandments, Anochi, I am. So that Anochi is Hashem's essence. Here, the kernel essence of the first of the constant mitzvahs, grasped in the simple, perfect faith of every simple Jew, transcends even the relatively intellectually oriented consciousness of the Shema. So this is connecting with Hashem's essence, the essence of God. Connect with the essence of God as the Kodesh HaKadoshim. And even us simple Jews can transcend our intellect and experience the very essence of God. In summary, we'll definitely need a summary because there was a lot of new information. It's how these six levels of increasing holiness correspond to the six constant mitzvahs. Just so we thought we got it all down, now there's more stuff to know. So let's look at this chart here on the top of 86 again. So now I guess we should start from the bottom. So the bottom is the idea of davening inside this cube. Then we have walled cities, which correspond to the back, and the walled cities correspond to the back. Below is the land of Israel. The north is Jerusalem. The south, the right is the Temple Mount. The front is the temple, and above is the Holy of Holies. I think I'm going to write. I'm going to add to my chart. If you have this chart, I recommend. So above is normally what we think of Emunah, belief in Hashem. So Emunah corresponds to the Kodesh HaKadoshim. The front, the east, is the unity of God. So that's the Beis Hamikdash. To the south is the Temple Mount. So that's love. To the left is Jerusalem. That's Yira, because it has Yira in its name. Below is the land of Israel. So that's no other gods. Because when we get to Eretz Yisrael, there's no other gods. We have to dig up all those idols and get rid of them. And then behind us is walled cities, and that's the wall of lo sasaru, of not following after our thoughts to drive ourselves crazy, even if we're good at it. Okay, so that makes it a little trickier, because I think everybody by now has the six constant mitzvahs in the cube, but now we're adding levels of holiness that correspond. Okay, now we are on chapter 11, which is the last actual chapter. The rest are all like supplementary essays. So this last chapter, on our subject, Living in Divine Space, which is the name of the book. And now this chapter, the 11th and last chapter, is Living in Divine Space. And the pasuk is, Hine makum iti. Hashem says, behold, there is a place with me. A quote from Shemos. So we're on page 89, and we'll just do a little bit to use our time well. So living in divine space, he, Hashem, is the place of the world. In conclusion, to appreciate in greater depth the dynamic nature of our meditative space, we turn to the concept of space itself, which in Hebrew is often synonymous with place, makum. So space, we've all wanted to know, what is space? I mean, come on, let's find out more about space. So space and place are both often translated as makum. Speaking to Hashem, Moshe says, Hine makum iti. Behold, there is a place with me. Shemos chapter 33. The sages interpret the statement to mean, Hashem is the place of the world is not his place. Moreover, the sages use the word for space or place, makum, to describe Hashem himself, the omnipresent one. Like we say in the Haggadah, Baruch hamakum, Baruch hu. Does everyone remember that part? For us, we have a family minhag that when we reach that part of the Seder, that all the women go to the front porch and dance. So the men are inside singing, Baruch Hamakum, Baruch Hu, and the women are all dancing outside. It's very sneeze, and it's a good break because in the middle of the Seder, we need a little exercise. You can't just sit there and read all night. You have to get up and dance around. So Baruch Hamakum is very meaningful to me. So Hashem is actually called Makum, which means space. We're going to find out what is space. Okay. The Kabbalah takes this metaphor further, explaining that before the creation of the universe, only Hashem's infinite light existed, allowing no place or space for created worlds to exist. So they say that's very hard for us to visualize this. Like before creation, there was only Hashem's light, there wasn't space. It's hard to visualize that there's no space because we're used to space. Okay. In order to begin the creative process, Hashem contracted his infinite light, thereby creating a vacant space in which all created reality could come into existence. So this is the Arizal's famous doctrine of Tzimtzum. It was a revolutionary doctrine because it didn't exist. The Arizal was a student of the Ramak. The Ramak wrote an encyclopedia of Kabbalah called Pardes Rimonim, a very poetic name, the Orchard of Pomegranates, and he does not mention Tzimtzum. He put all the Kabbalah up to that point in history in a book, but not Tzimtzum. So the Arizal, it brought down the revolutionary concept of Tzimtzum, that Hashem made an empty space by contracting himself, so to speak, an empty space to create the cosmos. And then he drew this thin ray of light, this kav of light into this empty space. And all reality comes from this kav of light that Hashem drew into this empty space, which he created by this tzimtzum, or contraction. And it's right that we spoke about this idea in the 1790s in Vilna. People would get into fistfights in the street of whether tzimtzum was kupashuto or lo kupashuto, whether tzimtzum was literary or figuratively. Was it real or not real? Was it just it was so Chassidus teaches that it was lo kupashuto, that Hashem's essence is here just as much as it was before the Tzimtzum, and Hashem's light wasn't removed, it was only hidden, and our job is to reveal it. You can see that's the Hasidic approach. Others felt that Hashem had removed his essence and removed his light, and only by hashgacha watched the world, conducted the world from a distance. But the Hasidic approach is that Hashem's essence is just as much here as it was before, which is a very comforting feeling because it means Hashem is everywhere with us. And we only have to reveal the light. That's our job. That's part of our shlichus. Reveal light. Bring light into the world. Okay. Well, 809. Maybe we could do one more paragraph. Let's go over that sentence one more time. So Hashem, through the Tzimtzum, Hashem created a vacant space in which all created reality could come into existence. It's an amazing idea, all created reality coming into existence. And it's happening every moment. Be here now. We may thus identify Hashem himself, the omnipresent one, as the higher space, in contrast to the apparent vacuum or womb in which creation exists, the lower space. In particular, each of these two spaces possesses two dimensions, 4 in all. So I think actually we'll stop with this up before this two spaces, because that's a whole subject which we should do when we're all wide awake. And next week, I actually have a wedding on Sunday night. So the next class is going to be in 2 weeks. So I'm going to miss everybody. But so please try to be here in 2 weeks for the next class. And so I'm just going to write this. I'm going to take our picture. Let me just write the date down. Today was Hey Mar Cheshvan. Okay. All right, so we're going to take a get well picture that Rav Yitzhak Feivish Ben Brian Malka should have a total refuah shlema, because we need him to teach us more great stuff. Let's get ready for that picture. Come on, everybody, put on your cameras. Don't be shy. The get well picture. Yes, let's see those gorgeous faces. Come on, more. Adrian, Sephora, Sandra. Let's do it. Come on. Yes, good. B. Feldman. Who could that be? All right. 1, 2, 3. Great. Thank you so much. Really, thank you all for coming. There's going to be another class with Rabbi Ellie for those that can stay. And it's wonderful seeing you all. And it's wonderful doing this together because I couldn't do it by myself. We need all of us together to do it. So lots of love. Have a great week. See you in 2 weeks. Amir Hashem. Lots of love. Kol Tuv. Thanks so much for coming.